You mentioned of course, all the reasons why we need to. Gosh, I wrote down the list, try to catch up with you. You're not lonely if we don't do this. Our relationships suffer. We don't have compassion for ourselves or for others. We don't, frankly, go to the doctor. I mean, a whole host of things, which is really not healthy at all. So in your book, I know you mentioned there's 5 C's for making the shift. I would love to dive into those a little bit. So
sure.
What are some of those C's?
The 5 C's that we identified are curiosity, courage, compassion, connection, and then commitment. And to say a bit about each of these, the curiosity piece is, kind of starting to ask questions about, first of all, the way we've been trained to be men, but also about anything. It's sort of recovering or being reminded that we are curious beings as human beings. But for a lot of boys, that sense of wonder about the world, why is the sky blue? How do airplanes fly? It gets shamed out of us, by high school or college, because, or certainly in the work world, early years, because you're taught to be the know-it-all, the smartest guy in the room. These days, you can't be that if you're going to succeed. Microsoft CEO has this great line: we got to move from being know-it-alls to learn-it-alls, and that requires curiosity. It also requires vulnerability. To say I don't know the answer. So that's that first C. It's related to courage, because if you are going to start showing up as vulnerable, it does take courage to say I don't know it all. But we're also calling for courage. Men are courageous in the physical realm. They're courageous in the financial realm. Burning buildings and rescues, or betting the farm on an idea. But we're asking men to go into the emotional realm with courage, and to sort of face fears around. Am I loved? And could I be having a closer relationship with my kids right now? What are some of the scars that I carry from childhood? And this is an ongoing challenge. I just was realizing with some of the organizations I founded, Brandon, and just this week even, I was like, if I don't hold these things so tight, maybe people will all leave and they won't like me, and the thing will fail. And it's like, that's an old kind of version of success that men are often held to. Is your product succeeding, or your legacy? But it took me courage to admit that to some of my team members, and they were like, "Dude, we love this place. We're not going to stop meeting and having this teal team, and that's the teal team that I've co-founded." So courage is the second one, and it can lead to beautiful things. Compassion is the third, and connection, those are kind of the heart of it, really. Like, can we not just demonstrate compassion in our actions in men, but start being explicit about it? Because we do show compassion when we earn money for our families and sacrifice, in doing jobs we often don't even love to earn money. But we're asking for men to sort of start having compassion, starting with ourselves. You mentioned the term self-compassion before, and how many men beat themselves up but aren't super kind to themselves, don't act as friends to themselves, and the hurts we feel, because that suggests we're not tough, and once we do that, it can make it easier to start sharing it with other people, and we know that there's a lot of power that comes out of compassion in terms of creating psychological safe teams, improving your relationships, etc. The connection one is related again. Like, can we move away from thinking we have to do it all by ourselves and that we have to be the rock, like you said, the island? I love that Simon and Garfunkel song, "I Am a Rock, I'm an Island," but it's a myth. We are interconnected. The COVID pandemic taught that better than anything, right? Like we rise and fall as a whole globe, really. And for us to sort of take relationships more seriously, there's a decline in friendship. There's an increase in loneliness, and there's an increase in suicide among men. And to help us see that we can forge these bonds, we can be vulnerable to each other, love each other as men, as brothers. It's an old idea, but we got to remember it. And the fifth C of commitment is just sticking with it, because it's going to be hard. Like, as I said, I'm having to do this on a weekly basis, and I wrote the damn book, So can we find habits? Can we do things like build a meditation practice, which can help with that self-compassion? Can we have a standing date with a good friend, a good male friend, or join a men's group? There's plenty to be done, but the commitment piece is necessary. Otherwise, it's easy to backslide.
Brother, I'm right there on this journey with you. It is
Right
not easy, my friend.
Give me an example for you, Brandon. Like,
So I'll give you an example. So here we are. We're January, and I spent a lot of time reflecting on my family and my relationships with my extended family, not my immediate family in my house. I feel pretty good about that, but my extended family. And I realized, I've worked very hard to play a certain role, thinking I was going to get appreciation or acknowledgement because I played this role. But those relationships are really not good relationships, and they're really not the relationships I want. And it's been really challenging for me. And there's been a lot of hurt personally around that I feel like I've just been neglected or overlooked or abused or taken advantage of by a lot of family, to be frank. And here's where it manifests itself, which is, I think, really challenging for us. A mentor shared with me, he said, whenever you see someone get angry, it often is a sign they're protecting something vulnerable. So I noticed myself really angry the last 30 days, 45 days, Ed. Just mad, frankly, just pissed off at all these family relationships because they're family. And these are people who are supposed to love you. I don't feel like they really love me or they're my fans. And so it's really hurtful, but it's manifesting in this other way, which doesn't feel very inviting, right? No one wants to hang out with somebody who's angry and mad all the time. So I think, and I'm working through that. And then I've got a mentor who's both, he was a former therapist and then turned coach. His name's Len, and Len's 76 years old. And I've known Len for decades. Fascinating guy. And, he's been working with me on this. And he's like, Brandon, you got to kind of give compassion to yourself. You got to kind of love yourself. I'm like, I don't really know how to do that. Len. He's like, well, think of that Brandon who's 7 years old, and you gotta love him. I'm like, yeah, he's okay, but I'm really having a hard time like giving that dude a hug. So I'm working through all this stuff that you're talking about here today, in real time. And it's now on the positive. I've been making an inventory. Well, what relationships really do give to me? Who are the people who really do love me who reach out to me? And how can I be more proactive in connecting with them? So I've been texting friends more, trying to find times to connect. Now, the pandemic has not helped, to be frank, because, I want to see these people. There's one of my very good friends, and I haven't seen him in probably 2 years. And so that makes it challenging. But I've been trying to be more proactive. But it's an emotional place to be in. Is probably the best way to sum it up.